The only thing that's still cheap are commodities. You're right about that. I mean, silver is down 60% from its all-time high. Sugar is down 60 or 70%. So commodities are the cheapest asset class right now.
Die Geldmeisterin. Der Finanzpodcast mit Julia Kistner.
Juhu, es gibt was zum Feiern. 150 Folgen der Geldmeisterin. Da habe ich niemanden geringeren eingeladen als Jim Rogers, der damals mit George Soros den Quantumfonds aufgelegt hat, einen der ersten erfolgreichen Hedgefonds, und der die Börse Wien 1985 wachgeküsst hat. Jim, nice to see you and at least to hear you again. First of all, please give us an overall perspective of the capital markets. Are you still bearish for shares or bullish for commodities, or does anything change in your mind?
Well, sometimes I'm bearish on shares in some countries. Sometimes I'm not. I am not buying shares in America or Europe now. Because they are very high, as you know. The stock markets have been going up for several years. In America, it's the longest in American history without a big problem. So shares are not cheap in America. I have a few shares in Japan, but I'm selling them. Japan has been very strong for a while. Uzbekistan, yes, but Uzbekistan is not very interesting for most people. So there are not many shares I'm buying. You're right. As I look around the world, bonds are certainly not cheap. Bonds have been and are in a bubble. Bonds have never been this expensive in history. So property in many places is a bubble, as you know. Korea, New Zealand, a few places. I don't know about Austria, but certainly many places. The only thing that's still cheap are commodities. You're right about that. I mean, silver is down 60% from its all-time high. Sugar is down 60 or 70%. So commodities are the cheapest asset class right now.
But
agriculture especially.
Yeah, but I have a little sugar tube from you. This is already, I think, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, and at this time you said you promised me I would get rich, and I'm not rich right now. Why is commodities such a difficult area that takes?
I don't know. Your commodity sugar is worth more now than it was then, and it continues to get more expensive. Sugar has a long way to go, if you ask me. The main reason commodities are not doing better, but some have done. I mean, oil has done very well. It depends on what you own or don't own. Gold is near its all-time high. Silver is not, but gold is. So some commodities have done very, very, very well, Julia. But I would imagine that commodities at the moment, because they're going to print more money, inflation will continue to come back, and commodities will be the best place to be still.
And which kind of commodities? Are you looking for the climate change and all the commodities you need therefore, like copper and so on? Or you said also you are in uranium, I think you said you would be invested. What kind of commodities?
Well, agriculture is probably best, but you mentioned copper. There are many metals or many commodities that will benefit from electric vehicles. And it looks like we're going to have electric vehicles. An electric car uses much more copper than a petrol car. So lithium, copper, many lead, many commodities have a good future, a better future, because of electric cars and electric vehicles. So most commodities, including especially agriculture, have a good future.
And how do you invest in these commodities? You have your own index. Is it that you invest in this index, or do you can't buy physical copper or uranium or something like this? How do you invest exactly? Or do you buy the companies on the stock markets or private equity, or how do you invest in?
Well, there are many ways buying commodity stocks. Certainly, there are copper stocks that are listed. Many commodity stocks are listed on exchanges, or you can buy a farm. If you like farming, you can buy a farm and become a farmer. That would be an extremely good way to make money. But it depends on what you know. You can buy futures. You can buy futures in nearly all commodities. So there are many ways to invest in commodities. It depends on what you know.
Because I got high, because I got high, because I got high.
And you are, for example, also invested in cannabis. This is also kind of agriculture. How do you like it that Germany is liberating the market for it?
Well, many countries have and are legalizing cannabis, marijuana. The UN has suggested that people legalize marijuana. So, yes, the future of marijuana, cannabis, it's a good future. It's not just Germany, other people as well.
Okay. And so you yourself didn't buy a farm yet, did you? And why not?
No. I'm too lazy, Julia.
Okay. Back to your favorite, I think, commodity is gold besides sugar. How do you see gold in the perspectives for gold? It's already quite risen right now. And why did it rise? Is it because everybody loses the trust in the dollar, and is it because the emerging markets try to have more gold in their banks, or what is the reason?
Well, I own gold, but I would not buy. If I were buying something today, it would be silver, not gold. Silver is down 60% from its all-time high. Gold is near its all-time high. So silver on a historic basis is cheaper. I own gold. I'm not selling, but I would buy silver if I were buying something today. So it depends on, when I look at any market, I look to see what's cheap. I don't want to buy things making all-time highs. I prefer to buy things that are cheap.
Yeah.
Gold is not cheap.
That's why you're leaving now Japan, I guess. You don't like crowded beds, right?
Well, Japan is becoming very interesting. The stock market's going up. The stock market was down for over 40 years, so over 30 years. So it's going up again, finally. But so I'm selling. It may go up back to its old highs, but I'm selling now. As
you said at the beginning, you are not in stocks from Europe and the USA. This you are telling me a long time already. Don't you regret that you missed the great stock rally, the tech rally in the United States?
Well, I own stocks around the world, but tech stocks I do not buy because I don't understand technology. Julia, I'm not smart enough. My 15-year-old daughter knows more about technology than I do. So if I buy shares, I prefer to buy things that I understand. And I do not understand technology.
Oh, okay. So you are also not in technology, in Chinese technology?
No, I usually don't buy technology anywhere. I really don't understand most technology. But let me say this. Even if I understand it, there are many people who understand it better than I do. So I don't like to buy things where I'm at a disadvantage.
Yeah. You wrote books and you also have been a bear for China. Nobody was thinking of. You moved to Singapore. You learned your daughter's Mandarin. And now what's going on in China? Stagflation, tumbling real estate. Like you thought that it would be the year or the millennium of China, and it isn't right now, or?
Well, the 20th century was the century of the United States. But along the way, Julia, America had many problems. We had many depressions, bankruptcy, civil war. We had a lot of problems, but we became the most successful country in the 20th century. China is going to have, they're having real estate problems right now, as you point out, but they had a huge real estate bubble. The government tried to pop the bubble several times. They were never successful. Now it's popping. So they're going to have at least real estate problems for a while. But it was such a huge bubble that it's going to take a while for the Chinese real estate market to stop going down, much less recover. Mm-hmm. But this is the way the world works. It's not the end of the world. In the 20th century, America had several real estate bubbles and collapses, but America still became very successful.
Mm-hmm. So you don't think that this will spread to USA, Europe, and elsewhere?
Since China is such a huge market, the second largest in the world, of course, if they have problems, it affects everybody. Mm-hmm. Austria, Germany, the United States, everybody. Mm-hmm. When the largest or the second largest market in the world has a problem, it affects anybody. If your customers are having problems, you have problems. But as I say, America had many problems along the way. Mm-hmm. It still became very successful, and China is certainly going to have problems. Not unusual, but I don't see anything to prevent China from being a very successful country in the 21st century. Not this year, but in the future.
Okay. And when will the future will be that it will overtake U.S. as the first economic power of the world?
Well, probably after the next big recession. Usually when the big countries have problems, everybody has problems. So when the next recession comes, everybody's going to have problems, including Austria. And after that recession, I would suspect China will come out on top. Everybody will do better, but I suspect China will come out on top then.
And are you already preparing for the recession? And how will the world change, the economic world? Do you think there will be these blocks on the one hand east, on the other hand west, and you have to decide as investor to go east or west? Or
well, investors always have to decide where to invest.
Yeah.
Some countries, some industries are always better than others. So that has always been the case. And it will be the case in the future. We always will have to decide whether to invest in Asia or Europe or America. We always will have to decide that. Mm-hmm. I would suspect that Asia will become more and more important for most of us. Asia has billions of people. Most of them do not have the big debts that we have in the West. America is the largest debtor nation in world history. Even Germany has a lot of debt problems now. Japan is unbelievable. So in the future, I would suspect that Asia will continue to go from the bottom to the top.
Mm-hmm. And do you see recession already? Except Germany is already in recession, but I mean a worldwide recession.
Well, it's not a worldwide recession right now because some industries and people are doing well. Oil is doing extremely well right now. Some metals are doing well. So, yes, you're starting to see recession. People are being fired. Unemployment is rising. Some companies' earnings are going down. So the recession has started in a small way in some areas.
Mm-hmm. And do you see this big recession you're talking about where Asia will get through easier than the others? Do you see that already in the near future?
Well, it's starting now in small ways. Whenever we have a recession, it usually happens at somebody we don't pay attention to, some small company or small country or some industry starts having problems and people notice it for a day or two. And that's already starting to happen, but it's not a huge move yet. I mean, many industries are still doing very well. Many economies are still doing well. It's not big enough to be on the evening news yet.
Okay. And what are you doing right now with your Chinese investments? Are you short for Chinese shares or companies? Or
No, I'm just sitting and watching.
All we can do is sit and wait.
I suspect, well, in 50 or 100 years, my children are going to have my Chinese shares.
okay,
And they
you
will
keep
say,
them.
oh, he must be smart. Look at all these shares we have, and look how much money we have. My Chinese, China's going to be the next great country in the world, I just own these shares, and then my children will have them in a few decades. But for the most part, I mean, I don't own many shares in the U.S. For the most part, I have not been buying new shares for several weeks.
And
Everything is near its all-time high, Julia. I don't like buying things making all-time highs.
so right now you sit and wait for the correction.
I'm sitting and waiting and watching. Yes.
And watching, yeah. And what are you doing with you? You always have been bullish for Russia. And what are you doing with your investments in Russia? Nothing, or are you?
Nothing. I cannot buy Russian shares. I would like to,
Yeah.
but I'm an American, so I cannot buy Ukraine shares. I would like to buy. I know that if you buy a country when it's at war, you usually do very well, but I am an American, so I cannot buy shares in either place at the moment.
Okay, but you think they will be worth sometimes something, so you...
I know that Russia and Ukraine will not be at war for 100 years. I know that both of those countries, the war will be over someday, and there will be opportunities in both places.
And again, back to China. Many European investors are now skeptical concerning investments in China because also they are missing transparency and they feel uncertain because of the new Chinese Espionage Act. How can you calm them down?
Well, I'm not going to try to calm anybody down, but I will just say that this has happened many times in history to many countries. And usually it's a chance to buy. People are skeptical about, it doesn't matter what the country, people are very skeptical about many places at times in history. That has nearly always been a good time to buy, whatever the country is.
And how do you invest in China? H share, S share, A share, or directly through private equity, or how?
A shares, all of them. I don't buy private equity anywhere, but any Chinese shares traded in many countries, and I have bought Chinese shares in many places, including in China.
So it's interesting that you said you don't buy private equity anywhere. Why?
I'm too lazy. Mainly, Julia, I like to think that I can sell. If I buy something, I like to think that I can sell it if I want to. And if it's private equity, I cannot sell if I decide to sell it. So for whatever reason, whether it's psychological with me or experience or whatever, I like to think that I can sell everything I own. Maybe I cannot, but at least I think I can. And if I have private equity, I cannot sell.
And what about bonds? You just said that bonds are too expensive. Here in Europe, everybody is keen on bonds and is leaving the share market. How do you see that? Where are the opportunities for bonds? Is it in the short term and the money market, or where do you see, or don't you see any chances in the bond market?
Well, most bonds are near their all-time highs. Most bond markets have been extremely strong for several years. The American bond market has been going up for 40 years. That kind of thing is, most bonds are in a bubble or near their all-time highs, and I don't see a reason to buy. Now, of course, I'm sure there are special situation bonds. If you find a right company or a right country, you can certainly buy bonds. But for the most part, bonds are the highest they've ever been, and that is historically not a good time to buy. If you want to buy bonds, buy short-term bonds, so you don't get trapped.
Okay. And I have to ask you PRIC Plus, because this is a real topic here. How do you interpret this new bloc, this new economic bloc with such different countries like Ethiopia and India and Brazil? Does this make sense to you? And how does it change your investment strategy?
It doesn't change my investment strategy. We've seen things like this for hundreds of years. Countries or groups of countries get together and they do things together for a while, but nothing has ever lasted very long, and very few of them have had much significance in history. So yes, they all get their pictures in the paper. Reporters have to cover it, but I don't see much significance at all. There's still many international groupings of countries. None of them have too much effect on anything.
Okay.
I need a dollar, that's what I need.
But one effect could be on the currency side. I know you are in dollar, and you always said when there's the big crash, everybody's going into the dollar, and then you change the dollar into gold, yeah? But even though they could not agree to a common currency right now, is that something you have to think of? And since your personal cash reserves are mainly in dollar, what does this mean for the foreign exchange and investment strategy for you then?
Well, I don't know where, when I sell my dollars, I don't know where I will go. And maybe dollars, maybe gold, who knows? It could be lots of things. Depends on what's happening in the world. But I don't see a new currency coming out of whatever they call it, the seven. I don't see a new currency of any importance coming out of these countries at the moment. Maybe it will, but the world needs something to compete with the dollar, but I don't see it happening yet. I would like for something to come up to compete with the dollar because I want to buy it. But I don't see anything yet that's going to compete with the U.S. dollar in the world market.
So to summarize, what are you bullish for, and where wouldn't you invest right now?
Well, I wouldn't invest in most shares for the reasons that I have said. And I don't know right now, Julia. I'm looking. I bought some Uzbekistan recently. I'm certainly looking for new markets, but most markets have been very strong for many years, and that historically is not a good time to be buying shares. So I'm not really buying many places now. I'm mainly waiting and watching, and I hope I get it right. If there's a crash, I hope I'm smart enough to buy, but I don't expect a crash yet. I am waiting and watching. If you know where I should buy, you tell me.
Yeah, okay, I will. Right now, I don't have any idea. But back to 1985, you discovered the Austrian Stock Exchange, which led to a boom in Vienna, and everybody is happy if he hears Jim Rogers and read about Jim Rogers. At this time, I guess you were analyzing the stocks, fundamental and chart, and you did maybe chart analysis. Does this old school of what looking for new places to invest, like to go to Uzbekistan or elsewhere, to travel somewhere like you did it, does this make any sense in our age of digitalization and artificial intelligence?
Well, yes, artificial intelligence, at least as far as I know, has not solved all of our problems yet. Maybe it will, but it's not enough yet. I am looking for new places. I mentioned Uzbekistan, but there are not many markets. Uzbekistan is interesting because it has a lot of assets and it's changing. The communists ruined Uzbekistan, but now the new people in Uzbekistan are starting to run the country the way it should be run. So maybe, and these cheap people have not been buying Uzbekistan stocks for many decades, so maybe it's very cheap. I'm always looking for a country like that or an industry like that, but there are not many now because stock markets around the world have been so strong for so long.
Mm-hmm. So regarding your investment process and selection process, or you don't implement yourself artificial intelligence right now, you have the old school of looking for shares and places.
Smart enough. I'm not smart enough here to do artificial intelligence. Okay. I'm sure it's going to continue to get better. It already is changing many things, but it has not changed anything for me yet. Not yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're altogether, you're not very bullish right now for stocks. You're just waiting.
I'm not bullish for stocks or bonds anywhere right now. I'm mainly waiting. And sometimes the best thing an investor can do is do nothing. Just wait and watch.
Thank you, Jim. This was really interesting. I have one other question, because we always read that many Chinese buy real estate in Singapore, and Singapore has already put the taxes high for real estate. Is this right? And why are the Chinese coming to Singapore to?
Well, many people want their money out of Singapore. Out of China.
Out of China.
That's happened many times in history. People want to get their money out of a country. Singapore is an open market. It's mainly, most of the people in Singapore are of Chinese heritage. 75% of them are Chinese, one way or the other. So the Chinese like to come where their people speak the language, eat the food, etc. So that's one reason Singapore is doing well. And there are not many places like Singapore right now for Chinese. Mm-hmm. They could go to Tokyo or somewhere, but there are not many Chinese countries or with a Chinese heritage. So that's one reason Singapore is doing well. But Singapore is a small island. So if a lot of people come and start buying property goes up, the local citizens get angry or they get unhappy. So Singapore put taxes on to try to calm. Singapore has had bubbles before. We all have had bubbles before. Singapore is trying to stop a property bubble.
Mm-hmm. But this doesn't concern you because you're the owner of your real estate, I guess.
Well, everything concerns me. I don't want to see a bubble in property in Singapore either, because bubbles always pop eventually. And when a bubble pops, there are a lot of unhappy people. So I don't want Singapore I don't want anywhere to have a bubble. Certainly not Singapore where I live.
So, but this won't happen because the Singapore government reacts with taxes, or?
Well, the Singapore government is trying to, but if you think any government is smarter than the market, let me tell you, no. Singapore has had bubbles in the past, property bubbles, and I'm sure they will again. Nobody's smart enough to avoid bubbles.
So many greetings to Singapore, and I hope, when is your next trip to Vienna?
Well, we're going to the New Year's Day concert in Vienna. We try to go. You have to.
The tickets is really difficult.
It's very difficult. You have to go for the lottery. Mm-hmm. Every year we go for the lottery. This year we won the lottery.
Really? So, congratulations.
But if you win the lottery, you still have to buy the tickets.
Yeah, sure.
But they're expensive. But we won the lottery this year. So we're buying our tickets, and we're coming to the New Year's Day concert this year. I look forward to seeing you somewhere next time. Okay?
Fine. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Julia.
Alles Gesagte ist nur die persönliche Meinung von Julia Kistner und daher keine Anlageempfehlung und keine Rechts- und Steuerberatung. Für Verluste, die aufgrund von getroffenen Aussagen entstehen, übernimmt die Autorin Julia Kistner keine Haftung.